For once, we were warm. Rain stitched neon into the windows of my apartment. The city outside reduced to color and motion, but inside there was heat that held. Dry air, dry clothes, a heater that hadn't failed yet. I didn't trust it, but I wasn't going to argue. Gear was everywhere, cases open, cloths spread across the table, tools placed where hands could find them without looking. The room spoke in small, familiar sounds, metal seating properly, fabric brushing skin, electronics waking and sleeping again. The language of people who expected to still be alive later. I sat at the table with my sleeves rolled up, jacket slung over the back of a chair. My pistol lay stripped in front of me, parts arranged the way they always were. It didn't need cleaning. That wasn't why I was doing it. Near the wall, my SMG rested half broken down. MP5 variant, compact, matte, boring in the way professionals preferred. That one was for work. No sentiment attached. The pistol was personal. I cleaned each piece slowly, then began installing the new components. SmartLink interface, internal refinements. Nothing flashy, just better tolerances, better response. The kind of upgrades you felt more than saw. Beside me, the new cyberdeck waited. Closed, it looked almost modest. When I lifted the lid, it unfolded with quiet confidence. Panels sliding, surfaces blooming outward, somatic interfaces extending like it was stretching into itself. Compact became complete in seconds. I felt eyes on it. "That thing's obscene," Kiko said. "It's efficient," I replied. She snorted. "Other deckers are going to hate you." "They already do," I replied, a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. Tasker stood by the counter, turning a slim armor insert over in his hands. Light, flexible, clean. He didn't need much. He never did. He tested it once, nodded, and set it aside. "Worth the money," he said. "All of it." I didn't disagree. Kiko's gaze drifted past me to the wall. Medals, framed photos, a younger version of me in uniform, already carrying the same stillness. "You were SAS?" she asked. I paused. Not long. Just long enough to decide not to dodge it. "Yes. That explains the way you move." "It explains some things," I said, sliding the pistol back together and checking the action. "The rest stayed behind." She didn't push. Tasker didn't look. Good teams knew when to leave things where they were. Across the room, Cinder worked quietly. Leather strips, beads, feathers, bone. He wasn't praying. He was assembling. Each finished piece earned a low breath, more habit than ritual, before he moved on. When he spoke, it was easy, conversational, threaded through the room without stopping his hands. For a moment, we existed. Then Kiko stretched, rocking back on her heels. "So," she said, light, almost playful, "you want to put our new toys to use?" I took the excuse, plugged a wire from the deck into the port at my temple with a slight click that I felt, more than heard. I connected. The deck responded immediately, clean, fast, obedient. The city opened up around my perception, layered and alive, systems whispering their presence whether they knew it or not. A message slid in, text only, "Golden payday, need you now." That was it. No flourish, no verification tag, no follow-up. Something shifted at the base of my skull. Not fear, not suspicion. Just an itch, like a collar sitting wrong. The kind of feeling you learned not to ignore, even when you couldn't justify it. The fixer didn't talk like that. I read it again. Same words, same flat urgency. "Kiko," I said, already disconnecting. "Grab your kit." She looked at my face and didn't ask why. Tasker was moving before I finished speaking. Cinder gathered his things without haste. We left the warmth behind. The fixer's building smelled wrong before we reached his door. Forced entry, subtle but sloppy. The lock defeated, not broken. The kind of work that didn't care if the neighbors noticed later. We went in ready for trouble. Weapons up, lines covered, breathing slow. The fixer was slumped in a chair, center of the room, like someone had placed him there and forgotten him. Blood on the floor, on the wall, dried and fresh, layered together. His hands shook when he looked up. "I'm sorry," he said. No bravado, no bargaining, just apology. "They came after you," he went on, voice raw. "Corp muscle. They wanted names, faces, where you sleep." He swallowed hard. "I gave them what I could. Not everything. Not fast." He looked at me, like he was trying to memorize my face. "I bought you time," he said. "Not enough to escape, just enough to run." I didn't argue with him. "Move. Now." Behind us, the fixer's voice cracked again, following our backs like a confession. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry." The hallway swallowed us. I pressed the stud behind my ear beneath the data jack. "Emergency services," I said aloud, breath steady as we took the stairs 2 at a time. "I need an ambulance. Adult male. Severe trauma. Conscious, but unstable." A calm, synthetic voice acknowledged me as we hit the landing. "Location transmitted," I continued. "Forced entry. Possible internal injuries. Time critical." Outside, the rain was heavier. The city louder. Kiko jacked in, her focus slipping somewhere deeper as the car became an extension of her body. The engine note shifted. Drones peeled off ahead of us, small and fast, feeding her the road before it reached us. We accelerated. Neon smeared across the windshield. Horns blared as we threaded gaps that shouldn't have existed. The road rushed beneath us. Rain hammered the roof. Traffic parted just late enough to feel dangerous. Minutes stretched thin and tight. No tail yet. No pressure. That didn't mean safety. Then one drone went silent. Not signal loss. Deliberate. "Contact," Kiko said, "close." They came fast and stupid. Unmarked vehicles, wrong plates, engines pushed too hard. Guns came up before words. The first shots cracked the air and chewed sparks from concrete. Tasker took rounds, armor held. The sound was wrong, too close, too heavy. But he rolled, came up breathing, intact. He slapped a hand against the scorched plate, checked it once, then let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Thought my luck ran out. Cinder was already there. He pressed something into Tasker's hand. A 4-leaved clover set in clear, polished amber, warm from his grip. "Not tonight." We fired back together, and the killers broke contact long enough for us to move. We vanished into the bones of the city and found a place the world forgot. A basement. Old, dry enough, thick concrete. Power nearby if we dared tap it. We had seconds. Then we had silence. The basement was quiet in the way only abandoned places ever were. Concrete walls stained by old leaks. A ceiling low enough to make you aware of your posture. Power lines stapled along one wall, patched and repatched by hands that hadn't cared about neatness. Just function. The kind of place people used briefly, then forgot. Kiko leaned against a support pillar, arms folded, eyes unfocused as she listened through her drones. They hung just outside the perimeter, patient, invisible, unless you knew where to look. "They'll sweep wide first," she said eventually. "Fast response teams, then narrower passes. They won't expect us to hole up this close." Tasker sat on a crate, armor plate unlatched, inspecting the scorched section where the rounds had hit. He didn't rush it, just checked, adjusted, reseated. Professional. Cinder crouched nearby, rearranging his things with care, every movement deliberate. He listened more than he spoke. I leaned back against the wall and let the tension drain just enough to notice my hands were shaking. Options, Kiko said. Not a question. An invitation. We run, Tasker said. City's big. We're good at disappearing. For how long? She asked. He shrugged. Longer than most. Not long enough, Cinder said quietly. They already know your names. They'll keep pushing until something breaks. No one argued with that. I took out a cigarette and rolled it between my fingers, feeling the paper, the weight. I didn't light it yet. They don't know our faces, I said. Not properly, not yet. That buys us time. Minutes, Kiko replied. Maybe hours. I nodded, which means waiting is worse than moving. Tasker took the charm from his pocket and pressed it against the outside of his wrist. There was a soft mechanical whir. A narrow seam opened in his skin, and a pair of precision grips emerged, closing around the amber clover and seating it flush against his wrist. Visible, deliberate, permanent. The mechanism locked with a quiet finality. He didn't say anything. Cinder watched for a moment, then looked away. I sparked the lighter and drew in, the cigarette settling between my teeth. Smoke curled up past my face, slow and lazy, climbing like it had nowhere else to be. I exhaled and let it drift. They made a mistake, I said. They sent muscle first. Kiko glanced at me. Explain. They're angry, I said. And they're rushing, which means they'll escalate before they understand the problem. Tasker looked up. We make ourselves the problem. Exactly. Silence settled again. Heavier this time, not uncomfortable. Thinking silence. Cinder spoke last. If we strike, it has to matter. Not revenge, not noise. Damage, Tasker said. Clarity, Kiko added. Make them look in the wrong direction. I took another drag, felt the burn, the calm that came with it. The plan wasn't formed yet, but the shape of it was there. Edges beginning to sharpen. We don't panic, I said. We don't scatter. We pick one pressure point, and we hit it hard enough that they have to respond. And while they respond, Kiko said slowly, we disappear again. I nodded. This place would work, I added, glancing around, if we had the time to make it ours. She smiled faintly. We didn't, but for the moment, we had enough. I flicked ash onto the concrete and watched it die. And for the first time since the message came through, I felt something close to certainty. We didn't overthink it. That was the point. The Corp had resources, layers, redundancy stacked on redundancy. If we tried to be clever too early, we'd disappear into their margins and never surface again. What we needed wasn't elegance. We needed a reaction. I found the site. Not because it mattered, because it connected. A secondary logistics node buried in the industrial sprawl, old enough to be trusted, important enough to hurt when it failed. Data relays, payroll buffers, transaction mirrors, nothing glamorous, everything intertwined, the sort of place no one worried about until it stopped behaving. I mapped it quietly, watched traffic flows, access patterns, maintenance cycles, let the systems tell me what they were afraid of without ever asking them directly. Mid-tier security, contract guards on rotation, Corp muscle listed as rapid response, not embedded, a response tree designed for accidents, not intent. I shared the feed. That one, I said. If it breaks loudly. Kiko studied the overlays, immediately translating data into space. Blind angles here and here. Service access south side. Drones can screen approach and pull back. Tasker rolled his shoulders once. They'll rush it. They always do, I said, especially when money starts screaming. Cinder said nothing. We moved before the picture changed. Rain flattened the city into reflections. Kiko kept us off main arteries, drones sliding ahead like scouts that didn't breathe. The building waited at the edge of an industrial block, concrete and neglect pretending it was invisible. I connected and went for the money first. Accounts that shouldn't talk to each other suddenly did. Transfers cascaded, clean and fast, siphoning corporate funds into charities and relief organizations with no return clauses, no clawbacks. By the time anyone noticed, the money was gone and untouchable. Then the data, buyer lists, shell companies, quiet contracts. I kept what would matter later. The rest I dumped. Internal memos, executive scandals, a disowned son repackaged as a corporate pride campaign, environmental violations, pipeline through protected native land, buried under legal silence, safety reports rewritten, deaths reclassified. I didn't curate, I flooded. Passwords followed, access codes, credentials. I scattered them across public nets and anarchist holes and places where people lived to break things because it proved they could. Inside, lights flickered. "That's our cue," I said. Tasker hit the door like it had personally offended him. Metal screamed. Hinges failed. Gunfire erupted. Loud, undisciplined, panicked. This time, we didn't hide. We let them see us. Corporate security arrived fast, too fast. Vehicles skidding into place, uniforms crisp and angry. They chased us publicly down lit streets, neon washing everything in color, traffic scattering as shots cracked the night open. People filmed. They always did. We vanished as deliberately as we'd appeared. Service corridors, dead zones, drone sacrifices peeling off in arcs to confuse pursuit. By the time Corp security realized they'd lost us, the damage was everywhere and the humiliation was already trending. We regrouped beneath an overpass, rain hammering concrete. "That was loud," Kiko said. "On purpose," I replied. "They'll be furious," Tasker said. "Good," I said. "They'll focus on fixing their image instead of protecting their throat." Cinder nodded once. Shame draws the eye. We didn't celebrate. We watched feeds ignite with outrage and denials too fast to be true. They'd spend hours chasing ghosts and patching holes and firing scapegoats. And while they did, we moved. This wasn't the kill. It was the distraction. The window was short, not because the Corp was slow, because they were loud. Every denial, every emergency press statement, every internal scramble pulled eyes and resources upward. Damage control ate everything else. We moved underneath it. The target wasn't symbolic. It wasn't public. It was structural. A mid-level executive node. Oversight, logistics, compliance. The kind of office that didn't make decisions but made sure the wrong ones happened smoothly. But that wasn't the real prize. That sat deeper. Kiko fed us routes through maintenance corridors and thermal shadows. "Security's thinner than it should be," she murmured. "They pulled people." "Expected," I said. "We don't linger." We slipped inside. I connected only long enough to blind internal sensors. Clean, temporary, reversible. Then I went where the money moved. Trade servers didn't scream when you touched them. They hummed. Fast, confident. Billions changing hands every second under assumptions no one ever challenged. I challenged them. I isolated the cause, severed redundancy, and froze the heartbeat mid-transfer. Orders stacked and collided. Trade stalled. Timers ticked past limits they were never meant to cross. Markets hate uncertainty. The system tried to compensate. I didn't let it. By the time alerts began propagating, the damage was baked in. Cascading halts, automated fail-safes triggering too late to matter. Losses compounding while humans scrambled to understand why nothing was obeying them anymore. Somewhere far above us, people were already standing up. "That's it," I said quietly. "They'll feel that." Tasker moved before the words finished. No spectacle, just speed. Bodies dropped quiet, weapons never raised. Cinder stayed close. The air around him felt attentive now, not heavier, watching. We reached the Corp office floor in under 2 minutes. That's when it went wrong. A door that should have opened didn't. "Hold," I said, reconnecting. The system pushed back hard. This wasn't panic code. This was anticipation. "They left a watcher," I said. "Smart one." Gunfire echoed down the corridor, sharper, closer, disciplined. Not contract muscle. We split, not by choice. A blast door slammed down between us, steel screaming as it locked. Tasker and I on one side, Kiko and Cinder on the other. Comms crackled. "They're pushing," Kiko added. "Hard." "Get to safety," I said. "Tasker and I will finish this." There was no argument. Tasker cracked his knuckles. The amber clover at his wrist caught the sterile light. "Thought you said surgical." "I said invisible," I replied. "They changed the rules." We got pushed out. The corridor ended in light and rain, and the sudden absence of walls. An emergency exit burst open under pressure and spat us into an exterior service yard. Steel, concrete, chain link crowned with wire, sodium lamps painting everything sick yellow, and men who knew what they were doing. At least double our number, maybe more. Not Corp muscle, killers. I tossed the MP5 to Tasker without looking, kept the pistol. "Short bursts," I said. "Don't stop moving." He caught it clean, nodded once. The exchange was deafening. Controlled fire, disciplined return. Sparks jumped from steel. Bullets snapped the air so close I felt heat, not pain. We were being pushed, shaped, not rushed. "Back," I called. "Fence line." Then I saw Cinder, on the other side of the fence. 2 of them had him, one behind, one in front. He was on his knees slumped against a concrete wall, blood on his face, one eye already swelling shut. The one in front of him was taking his time, talking. Rain slid off the man's hood as he crouched, voice calm, almost conversational. I couldn't hear most of it over the firefight, just the cadence, the confidence. Then he leaned closer and raised his voice, just enough. "The boss wants a story," he said, smiling. "And you just wrote the final chapter, with your blood." For a heartbeat, it was almost funny. Then something changed. Not visually, not cleanly. Pressure. Cinder's head rolled back like his body had stopped negotiating. His mouth opened. A choking, breathless noise came out. His hands lifted, waist level, palms open. For a fraction of a second, I thought I saw something behind him. Or maybe I felt it. The rain seemed to hesitate. The light bent, just enough that my eyes couldn't agree with each other. There was a low sound under everything else, too deep to be real, too steady to be imagined. The man stopped smiling. Confusion hit first, then strain. His arms shook like he was bracing against something immense and unseen. His boots scraped uselessly against the concrete. Panic followed. The sound he made was sharp, involuntary, cut short as his body jerked inward, crushed by nothing I could see. Even through gunfire, I heard stress sounds, failure sounds. Something ended, wet, heavy, final. The body collapsed in a way bodies shouldn't. The second man ran. So did the others. On our side, the killers faltered. Whatever they'd just seen, or thought they'd seen, broke their rhythm. Tasker moved. He didn't chase to kill. He closed distance like a guillotine falling. Implants humming, hands decisive. One went down hard, wind knocked out, alive. Another hit the ground and stayed there, staring at nothing, breathing fast. The rest scattered. They didn't regroup. They fled. Tasker reached the fence and simply tore it open, pulled it aside in one smooth motion, like a curtain that had forgotten it was supposed to resist. Chainlink shrieked once before he flung it down. We were through it before the sound finished echoing. Cinder was worse up close. Breathing, yes, shallow, uneven. Eyes fluttering without focus. He mumbled fragments, nothing you could hold. Tasker dropped beside him. "Cinder," he said low. No response. We lifted him together. He was heavy in absence, like whatever usually filled him wasn't there. His head lolled against my shoulder. Breath hitched, as if he was trying to remember how to do it properly. The car slid into view without slowing. Kiko already had it. Engine live. Alignment perfect. Front passenger door and rear door opened at the same time, smooth, expectant. We loaded Cinder into the back. Doors closed themselves. We were moving before I'd finished sitting down. I checked his breathing, counted it, kept counting until it steadied enough to stop my own chest from locking. Only then did I take out a cigarette. My hands shook when I lit it. I drew deep, held it, let the smoke fill the space behind my eyes where the noise had been. Exhaled slow, anchored. I stayed in the back with him. No one spoke. The city carried us away. He was already unraveling when I arrived. The executive sat alone at the head of a table meant for 12, jacket gone, sleeves rolled unevenly, like he'd tried to be practical and failed. One hand shook around a tumbler he kept refilling. The other hovered near the mute control, stabbing it too late, too early, never at the right time. The wall opposite him was all screens, markets in freefall, red arrows plunging, numbers refreshing faster than comprehension. News feeds stacked 3 deep footage cycling. Protests, leaked documents, talking heads arguing over each other, the company logo shrinking smaller and smaller in the corner like it was ashamed. Voices poured from the speakers, shouting, blame, panic. Someone demanding reassurance, someone else already crying, no one listening. He wiped his face hard with both hands, dragged them down, left sweat-slick streaks on his cheeks, took another drink, coughed, laughed once, sharp, brittle, and the power died. No flicker, no warning. Sound vanished, screens went black. The call cut off mid-word, leaving a silence so sudden it felt deliberate. Emergency lighting came up thin and weak, amber strips barely outlining the room. Enough to see him, enough to see how alone he really was. I stepped out of the dark. No speech, no announcement. The pistol came up. Pop. The first round took him cleanly in the head, snapping it back, chair jolting hard as his body reacted before it understood. Pop, pop. 2 into the chest. Controlled. Close. The glass shattered in his hand, liquor spilling across the table, soaking papers that no longer mattered. He never finished falling. I was already turning away. Tasker stood flush to the wall beside the doorframe, invisible from inside the room, eyes tracking downrange. He hadn't moved. He didn't need to. Done, I said, not slowing. We walked. I slid 2 cigarettes from the pack and set them between my lips. Lit both with one breath, flame steady despite everything. I pulled one free and handed it back without looking. Tasker took it. No nod. No words. We smoked as we moved, footsteps unhurried, smoke trailing behind us through a building that had already lost its future. We were already gone. Sleep is supposed to be safe. That's the lie it tells you. He woke without knowing why. No sound, no pain. Just the sudden, total certainty that something was wrong. his eyes open to darkness softened by moonlight, rain ticking against glass somewhere beyond the room. For a breath, he lay still, listening for the reason his body had dragged him out of sleep. Then he tried to move. Nothing happened. Not a finger. Not a breath deep enough to help. Whatever had him pinned held him completely, pressed into the mattress so thoroughly he couldn't even turn his head. His eyes shifted. Moonlight spilled through the rain-battered window, pale and cold, revealing a shape he didn't recognize at first. A man sat in a hardwood chair against the wall, upright, unmoving, bruised, bloodied. One eye swollen shut. Native American. A shaman. He sat defiantly straight despite everything that had been done to him, hands resting loosely at his sides. He wasn't chanting. He wasn't moving. He wasn't even looking at the bed. His eyes were turned slightly to the right, watching. The executive tried to scream. Nothing came out. That was when he realized the pressure holding him down wasn't hands. It wasn't weight. It was presence. Vast, crushing, intimate. Something unseen had him pinned so completely he couldn't even shake his head no. The darkness at the foot of the bed moved. No, it had been there the whole time. I stepped forward just enough for the moonlight to catch my outline. No speech, no warning. His eyes found me, wide and wet with understanding too late to matter. My hands came up. Pop. His head snapped back into the pillow, the sound small in the room, swallowed by fabric and rain. Pop, pop. 2 into the chest, controlled, close. The bed jerked under the impact, sheets blooming dark as the pressure released all at once. The unseen weight vanished. The room went still, blood soaked into linen. Rain tapped patiently at the window. The house, too quiet, too far from the city, held its breath around us. Cinder remained seated, still upright, still watching. Then his head sagged forward slightly, like a marionette whose strings had finally been cut. I stayed where I was. The silence did the rest. The boardroom sat so high the city looked unreal from up there. One wall was nothing but glass, rain smearing neon into long, trembling streaks of color that bled across the night. The room was thick with smoke, warm enough that the windows had begun to fog from the sheer number of bodies packed inside. Executives filled the table, too many of them. Some were seated properly. Others stood behind chairs they hadn't bothered to pull out. A few leaned against the wall like gravity had started asking questions they couldn't answer. They were a mess. 2 wore full suits, pressed and perfect. The rest were scattered variations of panic. Pajamas under jackets, shirts untucked, ties half knotted. One man still had white powder dusted across his nose and smeared clumsily along his cheek, where he'd tried and failed to wipe it away. The head of the table banged a hand down hard, trying to impose order with volume alone. Enough. Outside the glass, something lowered into view. 2 gun drones descended slowly, deliberately, rain running off their housings as they hovered in the night air. Their optics burned thin red lines through the fogged windows, lasers painting quiet, patient paths across the room. No one screamed. Smoke began to curl in the far corner of the room, coiling lazily as if it had nowhere else to go. The door opened, not fast, not slow. I walked in, jacket unzipped, a plain white t-shirt beneath it, untouched. Not because nothing had happened, but because it was already over. Tasker followed me in, and the room shrank around him. His jacket was gone now, green skin stretched over absurd muscle, presence alone changing the air. He stopped just inside the doorway and folded his arms, casual, almost relaxed. The clover at his wrist caught the light once. Then there was Cinder, already seated. No one had seen him enter. He sat within the smoke, upright but comfortable, face empty of expression, bruised, pale, still. Someone found their voice. "Who's this?" "Shut the fuck up," a woman hissed, voice sick with recognition. "That's hemorrhage." Silence snapped shut again. I stepped forward and stopped at the end of the table. I didn't lean. I didn't touch anything. I just stood there, letting the room adjust to the idea of me being real. "This is over," I said. No emphasis, no heat, just fact. No more games, no revenge. Don't come after us. Don't ask around about us. Don't even look us up on the grid. A few of them flinched. "You do not want to see us again," I continued, "because next time we won't come in through the door." I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked out. Cinder was already gone. Tasker lingered half a second longer, hand on the door. He looked back at the table, smiled wide and friendly, all teeth. "Be seeing you," he said. The smile never touched his eyes. He closed the door gently behind him. No one moved. No one called security. No one even reached for a phone. They stayed where they were, breathing smoke and rain and fear, while the city pressed itself against the glass and the drones outside drifted away like bad memories. It was over. All that was left was the rain.